in every community, I am sure there are these kind of options to where you can get the help if you are a queer youth member, and so we you are able to get the help and not get into the situation of getting trafficked. Um, Poverty is another thing that um, is a risk of getting trafficked. Poverty, drug use, absent parents, because, what do kids going to do when their parents aren't around? They're going to be on the streets, doing whatever they can to make money or to be exciting, you know, or anything like that. If they have difficulty in school, could be one of the riskful things. Running away from home. If they have mental health issues, that is something, because the healthcare system, again, we're going to touch on that, in the United States is not very good even for mental health. And, you know, that's one thing that definitely, hopefully, but it's not going to happen in the near future, will be taken care of. That um, mental health and health issues, insurance and stuff like that is better to be serving the Americans. But we'll see in the future. So we read the book called Walking Prey, and this is some of the information that I'm getting from is, who's at risk. This is what we learned from there. Um, and those who are at risk, it's, it's, I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that it's not like, uh, super common, because with TV and things like that, you feel like it is super common. And you just got to be aware of your surroundings and not um, be super afraid, because I feel like a lot of the times that happens to where you're super afraid and you don't let your kids do things. So there are a lot of different social work for um, sex trafficking. So, for example, I know I'm not going to disclose any people's names, but I do know people who have been human trafficked. One of those persons I was supposed to interview tonight. Um, and they, hearing their stories and learning from them is where I got most of my knowledge about human trafficking, as I said in the beginning, because those are the things that I knew about human trafficking was from them. And for example, when we discussed about their social work and their social worker, like, what did they do for them? That was something that I was quite interested in. So one of the persons that I knew, she was sex trafficked from Arizona out into California. And she gave me her information about um who the person was that sex trafficked her and all that information. But the getting out of it, and she talked about her social worker and how her social worker helped her gain the rights back to being able to work in social work, because she loved doing social work. She loved helping people, um, elderly people, and taking care of them. But because she was charged with the sex crime, she was unable to do that for years. So her social worker was able to fight for her right to be able to start working in the community again, working with elderly and working with disabled people. So she got that reinstated, thankfully for her. I think it was in 2000, what is this year? 2019, she got it reinstated, and she was sex trafficked in, like, long time ago. I would say 2006. So it was a while before she was able to get um, that back. And she was able to get it reinstated for her to be able to work with people again. And so that was really cool to learn. And so taking this course, I got, flashbacks of having a discussion with her about her being able to get her rights reinstated so she could work in social work again. So, social workers do have a very big job, and sometimes they're not given the pay that they deserve, or uh, the recognition that they deserve for what they do. Um, so they're, even with any kind of social work that people do, that they're in not, especially here in Arizona, in the United States, period, I guess, they're not given the oh, what is that word? I just lost it. Recognition. Welcome to ADD brain. At least it's happening in 20 minutes in and not like right in the beginning as usual. I wrote a list this time to make sure that I stuck to to what I'm talking about. Um, to all my listeners, thank you for sticking with me even when my ADD brain happens and I'm like gone. But I'm sticking to this. I'm sticking to this. So the social workers need the recognition that they deserve for what they do for communities, for these people who are sex trafficked, human trafficked, all this trafficking. They fight for their rights to get their rights, basically, you know. And luckily here in Arizona, I don't know any other information in any other states because each state does their own thing. But because I had this class and I had to learn for myself what my state did, uh, Governor Ducey did very well on that part. And so, what kind of resources are out there for us about human trafficking? There are so many things that we can learn and find out about. This book that we did have to read in the class, the Walking Pray book, um, it had some resources in it, but they're outdated, I would say, because this was from 2014, and like in the appendix, like it was stuff from like the 90s, and I'm sure that stuff is still um, still can give some knowledge to us, but because this book came out years ago, it could be updated, especially for the internet part, because this was in 2014. This book was put out, so think about that. 2014 until now, like 2014 with internet, there wasn't very much, I would say, for sex trafficking. But think about it. eh, We did back then was Craigslist, the back page and stuff like that. But then now there are bigger things like OnlyFans, um, and these websites that are bigger for because back for pay, these people pay to see these things, and uh, you know things have changed big time in since 2014 with human trafficking online. Um, on Facebook Messenger, there was a thing going around just a month ago, I think it was, where a person would be like, "Hey, I'm sorry that I missed you," and then if you type back like, "Who is this?" and then they send you a picture. Like it was just some weird thing going on, and it was said that it was a sex trafficking kind of like trying to reel you in kind of thing. Um, but you know, the resources for sex trafficking in 2022, like I was about to say 2021, Jesus, um, you know, have changed. A lot of things have changed, and some of them in a good manner, but some of them in a bad manner. But human trafficking, I feel we're more aware of, and it's happening, a lot. Um, we're just knowing about it more because of the internet, and we're seeing things like cameras catching it happening. So I think that is what's making us more aware of stuff. And because cameras are catching things. And that is why we are so a lot of people are hyper fixated on getting human trafficked or getting taken, getting abducted. Like these parents are afraid these things are going to happen to their kids. Just keep an eye on your kid, and be self-aware, be aware when you're in public. There's so many resources that are available for us than there was 8, 10 years ago. There are more things that are happening. Thank you to those social workers and to the activists that are out there that are pushing for bills to be put in place to help these uh, people that are survivors of being sex trafficked and human trafficked and um, taken and being used. And definitely, for my own state, having the money to be able to pay for getting the help is something that is very much needed because of our healthcare system not being great, especially the mental health care system. All the healthcare systems here in the United States, unfortunately, isn't what it should be the way that it is in other countries. And I'm not going to go and get crazy on that right now, but um, thankfully, some things are finally being done, and you know, in my state, things are getting done for those who can't afford the help that they need. And that is something that I would like to see done at a larger scale. And I know things are getting done at a larger scale, but it needs to make a bigger difference, I think. But I do know here in my state, things are getting taken care of from what I've read and what I've seen with the advertisements along the freeway. I've been seeing, and at the bus stops, um, the advertisements for human trafficking, because Arizona is a high risk state. The region is a high risk state being close to the border. But, you know, um, I don't want to frighten people. I just want people to be aware of what's going on, because that is the only thing that you can really do is be aware. So in the book, The Walking Prey, she does give the resources, and I think the resources are outdated. Like there is like law enforcement, first responders information. That stuff never changes, but um, you know, it's the online stuff is just bigger because of the things that are able to do for paying for um for sex and things like that. That is bigger because there's so many different websites, and you pay to people pay for what they want to see. And who's going to be making those films? Like, thankfully, some people have taken into their own the sex workers. I am pro sex worker, so um, if they want to do what they want to do, they're doing what they want to do, want to make their money the way they want to make. They're the owner of their own bodies, and they are in charge of themselves, then go for it. The one thing that I am against are people who are forced into the sex industry. So I know people who are in the sex industry and and um are in charge of themselves, and they are sex workers, um and they make their money and own themselves. They own themselves. So, but then there's other people that don't own themselves. That's what I'm against. And I am totally pro sex workers. Especially my friends that are sex workers. That's what they want to do. I don't care. Just be safe. Um, but as we know, in any of those kind of situations, you're putting yourself in the possibility of getting hurt if you're doing face-to-face work. But that's what I'm talking about, the good thing about online, because sex workers are doing whatever they want to do safely, and they don't have to have physical contact with people, which is a good thing. But we do need to somehow look into making sex